Nashville is on a bit of a hot streak, right? Whether it's It City or Nash Vegas or Nowville or my personal favorite, the bachelorette party capital of the world. Nashville is on the top of just about everyone's top 10 list of places to live, to work, to learn, and to visit. Well, what has led this surge in popularity has been an influx of creatives and creative enterprise, okay? And in our case, it's been the culinary arts and the artisanal maker movement that has made all this happen. Tonight I'm going to talk about how we deal with all that success and how artists and creatives will play a critical role in transitioning from a cool city to a great global city, right? So, my 5-year-old is a huge fan of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I think that's really cool. Mainly because 30 some odd years ago, I too was a fan of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I used to tell people, I say, you know what? One day I want to grow up and I want to become a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. And the funny thing is, in a way, I kind of did. Well, maybe not a turtle, maybe. But a mutant ninja, yes. You see, I've devoted my career to understanding great places. I grew up in a small town in Tennessee with an iconic main street, but one that was lifeless. I moved to San Francisco and lived in New York, places where great places existed every few blocks. I lived in Seaside, Florida, which was the poster child for the new urbanism. Okay? I traveled all over Europe and Northern Africa. Northern Africa. Okay, studying the great cities and urban neighborhoods that have been around for centuries. And now my work and travels take me all over North America to big towns, small towns, and wannabe towns. So what is it that makes a great place, right? Or what is it that makes some places great and memorable and interesting and other places, right? Well, first, you need a mix of uses, okay? Great places usually have a healthy mix of retail, residential, and office, all clustered around a walkable district. Okay, think Hillsborough Village here in Nashville, Main Street in Franklin, or Greenwich Village or the Latin Quarter in Paris. Okay, you also need interesting retail and restaurant. Okay, nothing against big box and franchises; they serve an important purpose. But I don't think anybody would call this a great place per se, right? No, often the experience you have in the cool bookstore or the independent restaurant or the neighborhood grocer is what makes a place great. Or better yet, all of the above in a single afternoon stroll. And then there's the public realm. Okay, that's the shared space, the parks, the plazas, the streets, the sidewalks, where people move, congregate, and relax. Okay, they have to be safe and accessible by car, by bike, and yes, by public transportation. Okay? Now, and so, what I've just described is how you plan a great place. And all of those things I've described are important, critical when planning a great place. But the problem is, planning a great place doesn't bring it to life. People do. Life brings a place to life. Okay, and I think we can all agree that life very rarely goes according to plan. You see, life is a superorganism. Cities are superorganisms. They're emergent phenomenon. They aren't planned from the top down, right? Okay, see, superorganisms are complex systems of smaller independent organisms that act independently of one another and using information that they have at their disposal. And then the success and failure of those actions are fed back locally, and all of a sudden patterns emerge. Places, towns, cities, civilizations. You see, ant colonies are kind of the go-to example for superorganisms, an emergent phenomenon. And they should, because they're awesome. I mean, they're crossing a river right here, okay? And so, but they're not taking orders from a queen, right? They are... No, you see, no one single ant can envision and design or plan an ant colony. Yet they emerge with with tunnels and chambers and larders and nurseries and love nests and cemeteries for the dead and dumps for their waste, right? And there's no planning department. There's no master plan at work here. They just emerge. But that's not how we see ants, right? We see a couple on the sidewalk or a few on the countertop. You see, these ants are ninjas, right? They work alone or in small groups in the shadows, exploring new frontiers, testing the boundaries of their environment, uncomfortable with the status quo and the limitations of the colony. You see, maybe there's food there, or maybe there's a place to build a new colony. You see, while these guys may be outcasts, they're critical to the advancement of their society. They're ninjas. And so too are our artists and creatives. You see, creatives are expert at uncovering the latent assets of place. They take something that's old or underappreciated or discarded, and they make it interesting and valuable again. Okay? Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but it's very low risk to society, but extremely high in reward. You see, the thing is, cities change. They grow. They rearrange. They change. Well, more precisely, they evolve, right? And if you know anything about evolution, then you know that a critical part of the process is mutation. See where I'm going here, the mutant ninjas? I told you, I'd weave it back in there. Okay? And so mutations are comparatively large, departures in DNA that help a species survive ever-changing circumstances and environments. Okay? Now, so how is a city to survive today when technology and society are advancing at breakneck speeds like we've never even conceived of? Well, we know you have to have diversity, right? So you have to have different types of people. And we're not talking about races necessarily. We're talking about cultures and values and ideas. Okay, but diversity is only as good as the number of interactions between those diverse cultures. You see, that's why suburban sprawl was so devastating to cities for the last century. I mean, a cul-de-sac is a great, safe place for your child to ride a bike, but it's not exactly a cultural petri dish, right? I mean, it's an echo chamber. You see, places whose residents just only see their own cultures and values reflected back at them day after day are not apt to change their minds. So that's why you need the places like I described earlier, these mixed-use environments, to facilitate the interactions among diverse cultures, okay? So I see a great place as the beating heart and the public face of a great neighborhood. And I think of a great city as a collection of great neighborhoods. Right? So think of each with their own cultural identity and distinction. So think of the great neighborhoods, or the great cities in North America. You know, New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Montreal. They're made up of great neighborhoods, like Dumbo and Soho and Little Italy and the Upper West Side, okay? And while people may live in the in the neighborhoods in which they identify the most, they travel freely and easily and often among them all, okay? So what you see here, let me go back to that. So what you see here is what we might think of as extremely diverse cities are actually a diverse array of fairly homogeneous neighborhoods. And that's good because you get both the cohesion of like-minded people living together, but also the diverse interactions that help a city evolve. All right? So, how do neighborhoods emerge, these new neighborhoods? Well, enter the mutant ninja. All right? So when a neighborhood becomes too homogeneous and therefore desirable and then pricey, the mutant ninja leaves and settles elsewhere. They find some place that's undervalued and underappreciated, and they make it their home, a creative hub, and then they attract other like-minded creatives and individuals. All right, and if enough of those people exist, the core of a new neighborhood is formed. Right. And the cycle repeats itself. Okay, so does that mean that that creatives are destined to be these nomadic, gypsy-like populations all their lives, never being able to settle? No, they're not. You see, actually, mutant ninjas don't stay mutant ninjas, because once they've created a place in which they've surrounded themselves with people that share their values and culture, then they cease to be mutant ninjas. It's okay. They cease to be mutant ninjas, and they just become creative assets of a great new creative neighborhood. Okay? And if cities know what they're doing, and some do and some don't, then they figure out a way to allow the creatives to stay in the place where they created the value, right? Yes. So, I was once a mutant ninja, but I'm not anymore. So, I founded a theater company in the unused back section of a grocery store in Seaside, Florida, a town of about 50 full-time residents. So what made that work was my own sort of stubborn determination to do something and a lack of anything else to do, but and also a public sector, or a developer namely, who understood the value of what I was trying to do. I mean, on the one hand, what else was he going to do with that space there? But on the other hand, handing 3,000 square feet of his downtown over to a wild-eyed 23-year-old right out of acting school was probably not in his master plan. But Robert Davis, the developer, had the foresight to understand that if he wanted this place to become a great place, he needed creative enterprise. And so he set some basic ground rules, no open flames, that kind of thing. And he got out of the way and let me do my work. And now, Seaside is home to dozens of creative enterprises, and it's the cultural hub of Northwest Florida. Take a look at Philadelphia here. So in the 1980s, Philadelphia was suffering from serious population loss. Industry was moving out, as were jobs, and blighted and dilapidated structures were everywhere. The city couldn't keep up with the graffiti that was piling up on everything. So the mayor launched an anti-graffiti campaign. But rather than hiring police officers to crack down on these criminals, he hired an artist, a woman by the name of Jane Gordon. And Jane Gordon reached out to these criminals and said, you know what? Your stuff is actually pretty good. How'd you like to be a mutant ninja? Just follow some simple ground rules, engage the local community, and the city might even help you pay for your work. And the next thing you know, the Philadelphia Mural Arts Program was born, and since then 3,600 murals have been created that are an integral part of the civic landscape and a critical part of neighborhood identity and beautification, and an inspiration to the millions of people that encounter them each year. Take a look at Arnaudville, Louisiana. Population about 1,200. So 4 in 10 of the residents of Arnaudville speak Cajun French at home. It's on the border of 2 parishes and at the crossroads of 2 bayous. And after Hurricane Katrina in 2005, Arnaudville was largely a forgotten town. Well, enter the mutant ninja, George Marks here. So he moved back to town to care for his ailing mom and decided he wanted to make something of the place. So he set up shop in an old dilapidated auto parts warehouse, and intent on creating an arts town market. Just a place where people could come and drink coffee and play music and create, buy, and sell art. Well, it worked. And the next thing you know, less than 10 years later, little Arnaudville, Louisiana is a state-sanctioned cultural district. It's a popular tourist destination. It's the cultural hub for the Cajun population in Louisiana, and it's the home to the 2014 Creative Placemaking Summit. George Marks is not a mutant ninja anymore. He's a creative asset in an incredible new place. Here in Nashville, you may have heard that Wedgwood Houston is kind of on the rise. But a little over a year ago, all that was in jeopardy when the mutant ninjas over at Fort Houston ran into some codes problems, that threatened to make them pull the plug and leave and go somewhere else, or at least change their business model. Well, thankfully, at the 11th hour, the disaster was averted, and thanks to some legal maneuvering and an evolving codes and zoning department. And now WeHo is popping. You see, in each of these cases, public officials did not set out on a mission of creative placemaking. No, they recognized the emerging patterns of creativity and responded with supportive policy and incentives. See, the bottom line is, creatives are going to create. Am I right? Okay? They're going to be urban trailblazers. But what we know now is that's a critical part of the evolution of a great city. I mean, we know that a strong creative sector attracts and retains talent, which in turn attracts and retains businesses. We know that it supports neighborhood development. And most importantly, we know that it breeds tolerance for diverse cultures and races and ideas. That is why cities love the arts. Well, as they say, if you love something, set it free. You see, the public sector has to understand that they're not in control here. What's in control is tens of thousands of years of the evolution of mankind. Okay? I mean, the very fact that we are so drawn to creative places should be evidence enough that it's good for us. Okay? So, what if we eliminated outdated zoning and building codes that restrict and inhibit the way creatives want to utilize a space, right? What if we made it easy, simple for artists to create, exhibit, and perform wherever they want? And when creative hotspots begin to emerge, what if we supported it with public realm improvements, tax incentives, and affordable housing programs, right? Well, the thing is, artists have to step up too, you see. It's time for the mutant ninjas to sort of emerge from the shadows and take their place, accept a leadership role in affecting the policies that change the way creatives live their lives. They need to influence the policy that helps them do what they do best, which is pushing the envelope, testing the boundaries of their environment, and claiming the unclaimed and making it beautiful and interesting and valuable. That is how Nashville and future its cities will become great global cities. So I'm going to leave you now with a quote from Jane Jacobs, who is in many ways the splinter in my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle metaphor. There is no logic that can be superimposed on the city. People make it. And it is to them, not buildings, that we must shape our plans. Thank you guys very much. Bye-bye.